Okay, let's go to the Lord in prayer as we begin. Lord, thank you that we can praise you, that you've given us a heart to praise you, you've given us a mind to praise you, you have given us lips to praise you. And that's our desire, Lord, to worship you more. And we understand that as we go deeper in our knowledge of you, as we learn more about you through your word, we will automatically go higher in our worship of you. And that's our desire as we begin our study now. Please teach us more of your truth, God, so that we can praise you even more. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, let's open our Bibles, Old Testament, as we continue our study through the Old Testament, Hezekiah. We're going to look at two specific areas today. We're going to look at 2 Kings 18, and we're going to look at 2 Chronicles 32. All right? So keep your finger in both areas, 2 Kings 18 and 2 Chronicles 32. All right? And we're going to enter now a new section about Hezekiah. We've been studying him now, I guess, about 8 weeks. This is our 9th week. And we've learned a lot about him. And now we're going to enter into the I guess what you would say, the longest section that that's written in the Bible about Hezekiah. It's Hezekiah versus a man, a king of Assyria by the name of Sennacherib. Okay? And what we're going to do today is we're going to look at 3 sections with Hezekiah. We're going to first look at Hezekiah's faithfulness. That'll be 2 Kings 18, verses 3 through 8. We're then going to look at Sennacherib's bitterness. And that's going to end up being 2 Kings 18, verse 13. And then we're going to look at Hezekiah's forgetfulness. That's going to be verses 14 through 16. And then we're going to see how that all applies to us. Okay? All right, good. Let's do this. Let's start out first. Let's look at Hezekiah's faithfulness. And we're going to do a bit of a review here. A lot of this will be a review, but it will all make sense and come together. And you're going to see why Sennacherib was so bitter. Okay? Let's start in 2 Kings 18, verse 1. Again, as we've learned many times, we're told when Hezekiah started his rule and reign. In the 3rd year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel, Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, king of Judah, began to reign. Remember, we learned he began to reign as a co-regent with his father Ahaz, and this was somewhere around 729 BC, while the northern part of Israel was still in existence. They were going to eventually be taken into exile in 722 BC by the Assyrians, okay? So, we have Hezekiah starting his reign as a co-regent with his daddy Ahaz in 729 BC. Verse 2, we now see when he began his sole rule, his sole reign. He was 25 years old when he became king. That was 715 BC. And he reigned in Jerusalem 29 years to 686 BC. His mother's name was Abijah, daughter of Zechariah. Now we're going to start to see Hezekiah's faithfulness. Verse 3, we read that he did what was what? Right, there you go, Gagi. Yashad in the Lord's sight, right? Just as his father, King David, not referring to his actual father, but ancestor, King David. Remember, we learned the word Yashad, meaning that he was walking right in the Lord's sight. He was living to please the Lord. Yashad is a powerful Hebrew word, okay? And that would be great to be written on your tombstone, right? She lived Yashad in the Lord's sight. That says it all, right? Well, Hezekiah lived Yashad in the Lord's sight. Not only that, look at verse 3. He also honored the name of the Lord. Verse 4. How did he honor the name of the Lord? Well, he removed idols out of Judah. He had smashed the high places, the sacred stones. He cut down the Asherah poles. He broke into pieces the bronze snake Moses had made. For up to that time, the Israelites had been burning incense to it. We are told in parentheses, this bronze snake was called Nehushtan. So we know that Hezekiah was not only Yashar in the Lord's sight, but he honored the name of the Lord, right? Remember we learned how at the very beginning of Hezekiah's reign in 715 BC, remember we learned how he had the right priorities, right? And the right motives. He reestablished temple worship, right? Because remember his daddy Ahaz had shut it down. He also reestablished what else? The Passover, very good. It hadn't been celebrated in a long time. He also rid the land of idolatry, not just in the southern kingdom of Judah, but those who were still remaining in the northern kingdom who hadn't been taken into exile. He even got them involved. He kind of reunited the nation, even though there was only a few of the Israelites in the northern kingdom still living there. They went back and even smashed idols. Because again, what's the first commandment? You shall have no other gods before me. Second commandment, you shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything, whether in heaven or on earth. You shall not bow down to it. Well, Hezekiah took the Lord seriously. So he was Yashad in the Lord's sight, right? He honored the name of the Lord. What else did he do? Well, look at verse 5. We read that he trusted in the Lord. And we're going to really see how his trust was tested today. He trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel. In fact, we're told, there was no one like him among all the kings of Judah, either before him or after him. This is a good thing for you to know. Solomon was known for what? Wisdom. Hezekiah was known for trust. So if somebody asks you, oh, tell me about this guy Hezekiah. Trust. Yashad. Okay? That's Hezekiah. That's what he was known for. All right? Not only that, though, look at verse 6. He also obeyed the Lord. He held fast to the Lord. He did not stop following him. And he, unlike when Solomon made his mistake, unlike so many of the other kings, here we see that Hezekiah, he kept the commands the Lord had given Moses. So he was Yashar in the Lord's sight. He honored the name of the Lord, getting rid of idolatry, reestablishing temple worship, reestablishing the Passover. We also see that he trusted the Lord. And again, think about it. We know the background, what his daddy Ahaz had done, and we're going to review it again in a few moments. But then all of a sudden when Hezekiah steps into office as king in 715, boy, he said, I'm not going to follow the crowd. I'm going to stand up as a godly king. I'm going to trust in the Lord, and I'm going to obey the Lord's word. And we're going to do what's right. Now, do you think that everybody immediately said, okay, Hezekiah, we're going to follow you? Probably not. Just like you, when you take a stand for the Lord, you trust the Lord, you obey the Lord, you're Yashad in the Lord's sight, and you seek to honor the Lord's name, right priorities, right motives, you have to understand the Lord will be pleased, but not everybody else will be pleased. Because what you're doing is you're raising the standard, right, Esther? And when you raise the standard, people don't want to go there. They're going to try to pull it down. What are you going to do? You going to let the crowd dictate how you honor the Lord? Or are you going to let the Lord dictate how you should honor him? We also see something else, and it makes sense. Look at verse 7, the first part. The Lord was with Hezekiah. And we're told that Hezekiah was what? Successful in whatever he undertook. In other words, he was blessed by the Lord. It makes sense why, right? I mean, you see what the guy, how he was serious about the Lord. In fact, let's see how blessed he was. Keep your finger there. Let's now go to 2 Chronicles 32. Is it 32? No. Yes, 32. I'm sorry. 2 Chronicles 32. Look at verses 27 through 30. We read that Hezekiah had very great what? Wealth and honor. And he made treasuries for his silver and gold and for his precious stones, spices, shields, and all kinds of valuables. He also made buildings to store the harvest of grain, new wine, and olive oil. He had made stalls for various kinds of cattle and pens for the flocks. He built villages, and he acquired great numbers of flocks and herds. Why? For God had given him very great riches. In fact, in verse 30, we read that it was Hezekiah who blocked the upper outlet of the Gihon spring. Watch me, Gihon was up here, Jerusalem was here. The water supply was in Gihon. He blocked it up, and what did he end up doing? He channeled the water down to the west side of the city of David, which is Jerusalem. Why? So that if an enemy attacked, Jerusalem would have a continuous supply of water. He built a tunnel, a massive tunnel. In fact, it was discovered in the 1800s by archaeologists. Underground, massive tunnel from Gihon all the way down to Jerusalem. I mean, imagine doing that in around 700 BC. I mean, that's amazing. But again, it shouldn't be amazing when you think about how the Lord blessed him because he was faithful to the Lord. In fact, we read, he succeeded in everything he undertook. Would you like to have a life like Hezekiah? Well, guess what? You got to stand strong like Hezekiah. Not only was he blessed in the spiritual realm, the material, financial realm, he was also blessed. Remember this one? He was healed by the Lord. Remember that one? Look over here in verse 24. In those days, remember, Hezekiah became ill, and he was at the point of what? Death. He prayed to the Lord, and he didn't pray specifically to be healed. Remember we studied that? Yet the Lord in his sovereign grace healed Hezekiah, gave a miraculous sign, added 15 more years to his life, right? I mean, it was just amazing. I mean, this guy lived a charmed life. Even though he sinned against the Lord, watch the screen, what happened? He was forgiven by the Lord. Remember we studied that because we read in verse 25, Hezekiah wasn't perfect, was he, Gagi? His heart was proud, right? Remember? He was healed, and look what happened. He did not respond to the Lord's kindness that he had shown him. And how did he not respond? Remember the envoys from Babylon showed up, says, Hezekiah, we brought gifts. We heard about this great healing. And what did Hezekiah do? Come on in. Look at all my wealth. Look at all my riches. He bragged to Babylon, showing you that he had pride like we all do. He made mistakes because, again, we saw that this was a man who was Yashad. He honored the name of the Lord. He trusted in the power of the Lord. He obeyed the word of the Lord, right? He was blessed abundantly by the Lord. He was even healed by the Lord and given 15 more years of life. But Hezekiah was a real person like you and me. He struggled with pride, and sometimes the more that God blesses us, the more prone we are to falling to pride. That's what happened to Hezekiah, right? But look what happened once Hezekiah was confronted by the prophet Isaiah. We're told at first he didn't respond to the kindness the Lord had shown him. Therefore, the Lord's wrath was on Hezekiah and on Judah and Jerusalem. Remember, God said, I'm going to hand you over to the Babylonians. You know, the ones you showed off to? Look at verse 26. Look what Hezekiah did. Just like King David had done when he had sinned. And unlike so many of the other kings, when they sinned and were confronted with their sin, they didn't respond and repent. Hezekiah, like King David, Hezekiah did. He repented of the pride of his heart, as did the people of Jerusalem. When a leader repents, the followers will follow that example usually. And therefore, the Lord's wrath did not come on them during the days of Hezekiah. So we see some amazing things about Hezekiah, right? And that's why, look over here in chapter 31, verses 20 and 21, we get this incredible summary statement about Hezekiah. This is what Hezekiah did throughout Judah, doing what was good and right and faithful before the Lord his God in everything that he ever undertook, in the service of God's temple and in obedience to the law and the commands. What did he do? He sought his God. And he also served him how? Wholeheartedly, key word. And therefore he prospered. He was blessed. So we see, again, a summary of Hezekiah. What was he? Yashad before the Lord? What else? He honored the name of the Lord. He trusted in the sovereignty of the Lord. He obeyed the word of the Lord. He was blessed abundantly by the Lord. He was even healed miraculously by the Lord. And even when he sinned with pride, he was graciously forgiven by the Lord. And then we see that summary statement. Hezekiah, what did he do? He lived for the Lord. Isn't that great? And then look what happens. Chapter 32, verse 1. After all that Hezekiah had so faithfully done. Do you see why I took you through all of that? So you get the picture of all? After all that Hezekiah had so faithfully done. Oh my. In 701 BC, the king of Assyria, Sennacherib, came and invaded Judah. He laid siege to the fortified cities, thinking to conquer them for himself. In other words, after Hezekiah's faithfulness, we see Sennacherib's what? Bitterness. Back to 2 Kings, and let's see why this happened. So let me let you in a little spiritual principle here. No matter how yashar you try to live your life before the Lord, it does not mean that you're not going to have problems. And sometimes, after all that you do for the Lord and being faithful, sometimes the Sennacheribs are going to show up in your life. And you're going, whoa, what's going on? Could it be that God is testing your trust? Yeah. Well, let's see. Now, what we have to do is we have to figure out, first of all, why was Sennacherib so bitter? At this point in 701 BC, he'd only been king for a couple years. Hezekiah wasn't messing with other people, really, right? Why did Sennacherib, all of a sudden, after all that Hezekiah had been doing in Judah, why did Sennacherib come and attack? I mean, the Assyrians already had the northern kingdom. What prompted them to come and attack faithful Hezekiah? Well, always cross-reference Scripture with Scripture, right? Here's what we see. Go back to chapter 18, verse 7, part B. After we read that Hezekiah was successful in whatever he undertook, look what it says. He rebelled against the king of Assyria and did not what? Serve him. What do you mean by that? Well, in order to understand what that means, we're just going to go one chapter over to 2 Kings 16, actually 2 chapters over. And remember Hezekiah's daddy Ahaz, what he did? Look here in chapter 16, verse 7. Remember when daddy Ahaz was king of Judah? What kind of king was daddy Ahaz? Good king, bad king? Bad king. Look what he ended up doing. He sent messengers to say to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria. Watch. Tiglath-Pileser was king of Assyria somewhere around in the 740s, the 730s BC. Sennacherib came along about 30 to 40 years later. Okay? But now Ahaz was dealing with the king of Assyria, just a different one, Tiglath-Pileser. And look what happened. Look what Ahaz said to him. I am your what? Servant and what? Vassal. That means basically I'm your bondslave. Who's a Christian supposed to be a bondslave to? Christ. Who should Ahaz, the king of Judah, been a bondslave to? God. But he goes, no. Because what was happening was Ahaz was being attacked. The northern kingdom was still in position. They were attacking. Not only that, but Aram, Damascus, they were attacking. So instead of relying on the Lord, Daddy Ahaz says, who Who's the strongest power out there? The Assyrians. Hey, Tiglath-Pileser, guess what? Let's make an alliance. I will be your bond slave. Well, how did that look? He said, come up and save me out of the hand of king of Aram and out of the king of Israel who are attacking me. And how did Ahaz secure this alliance? Verse 8. He took the silver and gold found in the temple of the Lord and in the treasuries of the royal palace. And what did he do? He took God's money and he sent it as a gift to a pagan king. And thus the king of Assyria complied by attacking Damascus and capturing it. He deported the inhabitants to Kir, and then he put the king of Damascus, Rezin, to death. Back to 2 Kings 18. So we see, number one, why Sennacherib was bitter. Look on the screen. Hezekiah did what? He stopped paying the king of Assyria. Remember, Daddy said, here's the money? Hezekiah says, no more. Again, read here in verse 7. Hezekiah rebelled against the king of Assyria and did not serve him. What does it mean he didn't serve him? I'm not your bondslave. I'm not your vassal. And oh, by the way, part of the deal of being a bondslave and having protection is you had to pay for it. It's like modern day mafia, right? Hezekiah goes, I'm not sending you any more money. That's God's money in God's house. I'm not sending money to you, a pagan king. You see why Sennacherib got a little bitter? But there was another reason. Hezekiah, verse 8, did something else. From watchtower to fortified city, he defeated the, who? Philistines, as far as Gaza and its territory. Watch me. Jerusalem was here. Philistine was about 55 miles southwest of Jerusalem. Hezekiah not only stopped giving money to Assyria, he also attacked the Philistines. And we're told he went down deep south there. He got all of that territory. In other words, he attacked the territory of the Assyrians. What do you mean by that? Keep your finger there. Let's go back to 2 Chronicles. All right? Back to 2 Chronicles. Let's read again about Ahaz. Here in chapter 28. Verses 16 through 21. The chronicler is giving us a little bit more information about Daddy Ahaz when he made the deal with Assyria. Look what happened. At that time, King Ahaz sent to the kings of Assyria for help. We read that in 2 Kings, right? Tiglath-Pileser. Watch this. Even though he paid off the Assyrians, God started to punish Ahaz and Judah. How? Verse 17. The Edomites had come again and attacked Judah, and they carried away prisoners. You see, all the money in the world can't buy protection when you're disobeying God. Look at verse 18. Another group came and attacked. Who was that? The Philistines. They had raided the towns in Judah that Judah had controlled. The towns in the foothills and in the Negev of Judah. They captured the Philistines and took territory from Judah. They captured and occupied Beth Shemesh, Ajalon, and Gederoth, as well as Soko, Timnah, and Gimzo, with their surrounding villages. The Lord had humbled Judah. Why? Because of Ahaz, king of Israel. What did he do? He promoted wickedness in Judah, and he had been most unfaithful to the Lord. Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, came to help him, but he gave him what instead? Trouble. Ahaz took some of the things from the temple of the Lord and from the royal palace and from the officials and presented them to the king of Assyria, but that did not help him. Back to 2 Kings. Let's get the picture here. We saw Hezekiah's faithfulness, right? And suddenly, out of seemingly nowhere, in 701 BC, a new king in Assyria, who's only been in office for a couple years, Sennacherib, is bitter and starts attacking Judah. Well, now we're starting to get a picture. Why? What was the first thing that Hezekiah did? He stopped paying the Assyrians. Stopped paying money that his daddy Ahaz was paying them. Money that was not the king's money. It was God's money. Second thing he did is he attacked an area of the Assyrians. Philistine, at that point, was under Assyrian control. Right? Now we understand the background why he attacked the Philistines. Why did he attack the Philistines? Because the Philistines earlier, during the reign of Daddy Ahaz, had taken a lot of territory from Judah. Right? Now the Assyrians are overseeing the Philistines. That means that literally the areas that the Philistines had taken from Judah was now whose territory? Assyrians. So can you imagine Hezekiah attacks the Philistines? He didn't just go to the first one. He goes all the way south. He gets everything back. How do you think the king of Assyria felt on that? Oh, we see how he felt. Chapter 18, verse 17. I'm sorry, verse 13. In the 14th year of Hezekiah's reign, that's 701 BC, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, attacked what? All the fortified cities of Judah, and he captured them. Wow. Now watch. A very interesting thing has happened. You know, archaeological discoveries have affirmed so many things written in the Bible. Well, it makes sense because God inspired the Bible, right? And one of the archaeological findings, this is great, that have been discovered were the writings of Sennacherib. It's called the Annals of Sennacherib. Where as a king, he wrote, on what they wrote on back then, he wrote the history of his rule and reign. Now remember, when did he rule and reign? About 700 years before Christ. And yet, archaeologists' discoveries have found his writings. In fact, let me show you a couple of things he said about Hezekiah. This Jew was overbearing and proud. Do you understand why he was saying it? Who's this Jew not to pay me? We're the Assyrians. You want to see what else he said? This Jew would not submit to my yoke. This is in his writings. We have the findings. Who's this Jew not to submit to my yoke? I'm the king of Assyria. And he also wrote, I attacked 46 cities in Judah. So when we read in verse 17, the king of Assyria sent verse 13. In the 14th year of King Hezekiah's reign, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, attacked all the fortified cities of Judah. How many? 46, and captured them. And it's very interesting. Another thing that the Assyrians used to do, they didn't just do physical warfare. They also did psychological warfare to intimidate the enemy to surrender before any battle occurred. And one of the psychological weapons they used was they would take the dead bodies and they would put them on stakes. You imagine Hezekiah thinking 46 cities. Now Hezekiah is still in Jerusalem. Jerusalem yet hasn't been attacked. But the Assyrians taking 46 cities. And they're leaving dead bodies on the stakes. You imagine the runners running to Hezekiah in Jerusalem. There's dead bodies all over the place, and they're on the stakes. The idea being, surrender now, or your body's going to be on the stake. Another thing, they used to take heads, cut them off, and pile them in heaps throughout 46 cities. Watch this one. They would then take the captives and they would skin them alive. And that's why verse 14 through 16, when Hezekiah heard all this, even though it was yashad in the Lord's sight, honored the name of the Lord, trusted in the Lord, obeyed the Lord, was blessed by the Lord, was healed by the Lord, was forgiven by the Lord, lived for the Lord. Yet when Hezekiah heard Sennacherib was on the rampage, he was bitter. He was coming down to Jerusalem. He had taken 46 cities and he left all that kind of evidence there. Verse 14, Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent this message to the king of Assyria at Lachish. I have done what? Wrong. Withdraw from me, and I'll do what? I'll pay you whatever you demand. Once again, we see Hezekiah was human just like us. The king of Assyria exacted from Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver. That's 11 tons of silver. That was the payment to not attack Jerusalem. And not just that, 30 talents of gold. About a ton of gold. But not just that. How was Hezekiah going to get all that money? Hezekiah gave him all the silver that was found where? In the temple of the Lord. Sound like anybody else? Daddy Ahaz. It's interesting, parents. When you compromise, you may not realize it, but your kids are watching you. And there may come that time when they get a little forgetful, like Hezekiah, when it comes to trusting the Lord, and they remember what mommy and daddy did. Hezekiah remembered what Ahaz did to try to buy protection with Assyria, which was against God's word. So Hezekiah's like, where am I going to get the money? Oh, I know, where my daddy found it 30 years earlier. So Hezekiah gave him all the silver that was found in the temple of the Lord and in the treasuries of the royal palace. At this time, Hezekiah, king of Judah, verse 16, stripped off the gold which he had covered the doors and doorposts of the temple of the Lord. Remember when he restored the temple of the Lord? He did it the right way with gold and everything. Remember his daddy Ahaz messed everything up? Hezekiah panicked. And all that gold in the Lord's house, he gave it to the king of Assyria. And we'll stop there for today on Hezekiah. You guys are going, oh no, is that where it ends? No, there's a lot of section here. You guys understand? So Dragan, I know that your hero Hezekiah, last time we talked about him, he bragged to Babylon. Today we see him, we saw his faithfulness, right? We saw Sennacherib's bitterness, right? We understand why. And now we see Hezekiah's what? Forgetfulness. What did he forget? 3 S's. He forgot the sovereignty of God. God's in control, not Sennacherib. Can anybody relate? That's number two. He forgot the strength of God. As scary as Sennacherib was, piling all those dead bodies and heads and skinning people, he was only a human. He was a human king. He wasn't the king of kings, right? That's what Hezekiah forgot. He forgot God's sovereignty, he forgot God's strength, and he forgot God's what? Security. He tried to buy security. And if truth be told, those three S's that Hezekiah forgot, we often forget, don't we? We're living Yashad in the Lord's sight. We're honoring the name of the Lord. We're trusting in the power of the Lord. We're obeying the word of the Lord. We're being blessed by the Lord. We're being healed by the Lord. Forgiven by the Lord. And then all of a sudden, we start to get wind of some problems coming. Our Sennacheribs. And we forget God. And we start to get practical and pragmatic. And when that happens, inevitably, we forget the sovereignty of God, we forget the strength of God, and the security only found in God. And you can pay for as much security as you think you can get. You will never get that security. And we're going to see that next study. Because Sennacherib, even though he got all that money, wasn't enough. We're going to learn next week, or next time. He says, Hezekiah, you've got to step out as king. And we're going to see how that went down. If you try to find security in humans, you'll never find it. And eventually, you'll do anything you can. You'll pay with any price to try to get it. Even if it means dishonoring God. Now again, let's not be too hard on Hezekiah. I mean, let's face it. Assyria was the world power at that time. They had taken out Aram and all those areas up there. They took out the northern kingdom. Egypt was no match for them. And all of a sudden, Sennacherib gets bitter. I mean, can you imagine Hezekiah going, if only I didn't stop paying them? Or if only I didn't attack the Philistines and get the Lord's property back. Maybe Sennacherib wouldn't have been so bitter. But Hezekiah had done what was right in the Lord's sight. He stopped paying like his daddy had done. Because that was God's money. And he also went and attacked the area of the Philistines. Why? Because that was God's property. But there were some human consequences to that. All of a sudden, it ignited Sennacherib's bitterness. Christian, when you start to do things that are right in the Lord's sight, husbands, when you start to love your wives as Christ loved the church, wives, when you start to honor and respect your husbands and work together as a team for the glory of God, let me tell you something right now. The ultimate Sennacherib, the evil one, the devil, is not going to be happy. When you are serious about the word of the Lord, when you are serious about honoring the name of the Lord, when you are serious about sharing the word of the Lord with others, let me tell you something. That evil Sennacherib, Satan, he's going to do anything he can to intimidate you. Again, we don't want to give too much credit to Satan, but we don't want to deny him. He's a reality. He's not God. He's not sovereign. He's not all powerful. And there's no security in Satan. But it's going to happen. See, it won't happen if you are compromising. Because he doesn't care if he's not threatened or intimidating, Satan isn't, but he doesn't get bitter at compromising Christians. He's worried about Yashada Christians. He's worried about Christians who honor the name of the Lord, who trust in the sovereignty of the Lord, who obey the word of the Lord, who are being blessed big time by the Lord, who have experienced miraculous healings from the Lord, who are living for the Lord. He gets bitter at those Christians. And he may lay all kinds of dead bodies in front of you, pile all kinds of heads to intimidate you, skin people alive to get you to stop honoring God. What are you going to do? You going to pay the devil off to leave you alone? He won't stop. Or are you going to trust in the sovereignty of God, the strength of God, and security of God? Go to Romans chapter 8. We'll close here. This is, my friends, where you've got to be strong in the word, conviction. Because Satan is the father of lies. And he's going to shoot lies at you, doubts at you, to try to get you to be intimidated and compromised. But this is where we have to look and say, okay, this is what God says. Number one, the first S was what? God's what? Sovereignty. Well, look what God says, verse 28 of chapter 8. And we know that in what? All things. God works for the good. For whom? For everybody? No, for Christians. For those who love him. Well, why do we love the Lord? Because he first loved us. And guess what we know? God is sovereign. He works all things for good. For those who've been called according to his purpose. For those God foreknew, he also predestined. What's the goal? To be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn, first resurrected among many brothers and sisters. And those God predestined, he also called. How? Through the gospel. Those he called, he also justified. Those he justified, we're already glorified. We already know where we're going. We're going to the true Jerusalem, heaven. So guess what? God will make sure that which he started with you, he brings to completion. Philippians 1:6. You can trust in the sovereignty of God. He's in control. Just like we're going to see as we continue our study in Hezekiah, we're going to see God's sovereignty just destroying Sennacherib. I mean, it's a joke. Sennacherib was nothing compared to God, right? But again, you can understand Hezekiah's intimidation. He's a human, Hezekiah, and he's looking at humans. That's why you've got to take your eye off of a human and you've got to put your eyes on God. And how do you do that? Because God is invisible. The only way you can do that is right here. God says, I work all things out for good in my glory for those who love me and have been called according to my purpose. And those who I predestined, they've been called. Those who have been called, they're already justified. Those who are justified, they're glorified. But we also see here in chapter 8 about the strength of God. Look at this. Verse 31. What then shall we say in response to these things? If God is for us, who is God for? We just read verses 28 through 30, his people, right? Well, if God is for us, then here's the question. Can Sennacherib be against us? Can Satan be against us? No. Oh, he can make all kinds of intimidating things. He can try all kinds of psychological warfare on us. But what's he going to do to us? And here's your defense. Verse 32. He, God the Father, who did not spare his own Son, God the Son, but gave him up for us all. Who's us all? Those in verses 28 through 30. Can I ask you a question then, Christian? How will he, God, not also, along with him, the Son, graciously give us? Who's the us? Christians, what? All things. Protection, provision, guidance, help, strength, security, everything. Doesn't mean we're not going to have our challenges as we study with Hezekiah. Doesn't mean we're not going to sin at times. But you see how God is merciful and forgiving. Who's going to bring any charge against those whom God has chosen? What's the answer? No one. Why? Look at verse 1. Therefore there is now what? No condemnation. For who? Those who are in Christ Jesus. And we're going to see how Sennacherib tried to condemn Hezekiah in front of all of Hezekiah's people next time we study. But look here, chapter 8, verse 33. Who's going to bring any charge against those whom God has chosen? The devil can't do it. Why? Because it's God who justifies. We've been studying that word justifications in our epistle study. What does it mean to be justified? That's when God declares you not guilty in his sight and also righteous in his sight. How? Because of his Son. Look what it says in verse 34. Who then is going to condemn you? What's the answer? No one. Why? Christ Jesus died. He was condemned for you. More than that, he was raised to life. And guess what he's doing right now in heaven? He's praying for you, interceding for you. So can I ask you a question? Who has more power, the Sennacheribs who come against you, the bitter Sennacheribs, or the prayers of Jesus? Think of that. I mean, think about this, right? We know we're sinners, right? We come to this world with a sin nature, separated from God under the judgment of God, because God has to punish sin, right? We're all facing eternal damnation. Our bodies piled in hell for eternity, suffering wrath. God's wrath, that's bad. But God in his grace sent his beloved Son, God the Son, to this earth to defeat the hold of the devil. Unlike us, Jesus was born without a sin nature. Unlike us, Jesus lived a perfect life, even though he was tempted in every way as well. Isn't it interesting how the devil tried to tempt Jesus 3 times to compromise? Remember in the wilderness? Come on, turn the stones into bread. You'll be all right. Go ahead and eat. You're the Son of God. Your Father forgot you. Jump from the top of the temple. There's a big crowd down there. You don't need to go to the cross to get worship. You can jump right now, because it says in Psalm 91, the angels are going to help you and catch you, and you're going to come down as Jesus Christ superstar. Everybody's going to worship you. And then the final one, you see all these kingdoms, Jesus, in the world. You can have them right now. You don't need to go to the cross. I have a kingdom here for you. You just got to do one thing. Bow now. And isn't that what Sennacherib did to Hezekiah? You can have your protection. Bow now. But Jesus didn't, because he trusted in the sovereignty of the Father, the strength of the Father, and the security of the Father. And he went to that cross, and as he hung there, God the Father, in his love for us, took our sins, placed them on Jesus, and punished Jesus in our place as our substitute. Jesus died, but what happened 3 days later? He rose from the dead. He overcame sin and death for us. The Father accepted the sacrifice of the Son on our behalf. And God in his grace grants us forgiveness of sins in terms of that day of judgment. He grants us free gift of eternal life. We're now in God's family. Satan cannot have you. Oh, he's going to try to condemn you. He's going to try to bring charges against you. But you've got God the Son intercede. You've got the King of Kings interceding for you. Saying to the Father, no, I paid for his sin. I paid for her sins. And that's why, verse 35, we see the sovereignty of God, the strength of God. Now we see the security of God. Look at verse 35. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? What's the answer? No one. You see the security there? Shall trouble or hardship or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword or the Sennacheribs? No, go to verse 38. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything in all creation will be able to do what? Separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. You cannot control the Sennacheribs coming against you. The only way you can maybe stop them from coming against you, Christian, is if you compromise and dishonor God. And we don't do that. We're going to be yashad in the Lord's sight. We're going to honor the name of the Lord. We're going to trust in the sovereignty, strength, and security of the Lord. We're going to be obedient to the word of the Lord. We will enjoy the blessings of the Lord. We will allow the Lord daily to heal us. And we will live for the Lord. And when we sin, we will go to him and look for forgiveness from the Lord. But the bottom line is this: we do not get intimidated by the Sennacheribs, because we live for the Lord. He is our security. He is our strength, because he is the sovereign King. Amen? Amen. Let's pray. Dear Jesus, our King, we thank you for your sovereignty, your strength, and the security we have in you. Eternal security that you purchased with your precious blood. May we be a people who don't compromise. May we be a people, when bitterness comes against us and tries to intimidate us, that we stand strong in you and for you. Help us, please, when it comes to our marriages. Help us, please, when it comes to raising our children. Help us, please, when it comes to our places of employment. Help us, please, when it comes to our ministries. Help us, please, to not give in and pay off the Sennacheribs. Help us, please, to honor your holy name. Not looking at the physical reality, but looking at the spiritual reality. Lord, if you are for us, who or what can be against us? And we thank you. Lord, we praise you for your word today. Lord, continue to, by your Spirit, apply this truth to us over the next several days so that we can continue to be a people who are yashad in your sight. And it's in Jesus' name we pray.